Is it better that Auburn's top commits and recruits are on campus to see some of these losses? It seems that way because Auburn's season, while it's falling apart, their recruiting class, it's thriving. I don't get it, but I got Jeffrey Lee from Auburn live on this video, and we're going to break it all down. But first, Auburn fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Jeffrey Lee. So Auburn gets Vanderbilt bowl eligible yesterday, and the weird thing is, despite all these losses, Auburn does it in front of their top, like Deuce Knight, Alvin Henderson, all these flip targets that we're going to get to. We're all on campus. Jeff, is it better that they're on campus and they can kind of witness it and the coaching staff can control the narrative? Or if they're just off campus, maybe they don't see it, but they hear about it? Is this better that they're there?
I absolutely agree with you from the former. I think controlling that narrative, if they're at other schools, they're saying, look at what's going on down at Auburn today. They're losing to Vandy. Whereas when we're talking to these recruits after the games, they're coming out and they're saying what you would want them to say if you're an Auburn fan. You know, this is how close they are. They're missing these pieces. If they had me, if they had us, what we're going to do, we will be the difference. So, and I think, you know, NIL is certainly a good thing to have if you're Auburn as well. So like you said, man, I think it's best to have them there to control what's going into their ear and have an influence on what's coming out their mouth.
Is that what were they saying to you after the game? Some of these top commits.
Yeah, I'm locked in. I'm not taking any other visits. Anquan Fagans, I'm not going anywhere. You know, JJ Falk, I'm not going anywhere. Deuce Knight, I'm not going anywhere. Alvin Henderson, all these guys, even the 2026 guys, JaMychal Garrett. So it's impressive to see what's coming out their mouth when you see what's going into their eyes an hour before, and what their hope is and what their plans is for this program, and the selling job that this coaching staff has to be doing to convince these kids that brighter days are ahead.
And we're seeing recruiting classes across the country fall apart from teams that are struggling. I mean, you got look at Florida State, and you know, I think the difference is it's year 5 under Mike Norvell.
Right.
You look at what's happening at Florida, but it's year 3 under Billy Napier. So maybe, do you think it's like the fact that it's year 2 under Hugh Freeze? There's still a lot of hope and excitement, and then sprinkle a little NIL on top of that, and that's what's keeping this thing. And it's really not just keeping it together. I mean, Auburn's on the offensive. They're adding to this class.
Right. I expect, you know, Joseph Mbachu left an official visit on Sunday. A lot of people, including myself, believe he'll join Auburn's class soon.
Yeah, Steve Wiltfong put a pick in, I believe.
The two Harris twins from North Carolina, 2026 #1 defensive lineman in the country, you know, basically said after the Vanderbilt game, this might be the place for me, and I'm going to have a decision soon. His brother echoed those sentiment. So they're adding guys. They're on the offensive. So it's been very impressive, I think, with what you were asking, though, year 2. And I know a lot of people, the narrative on Twitter and some of the things that I've seen is, you know, Hugh Freeze has now a worse record than Brian Harsin did in the first whatever games. But that's the context of that is not anywhere close. You know, Hugh Freeze, he took over a program that was dire straits. The roster was emptied before he got there. He's done what he can to get it back. So I think there's a lot of points that you're making to these recruits as saying, listen, this is my second year. We've had to revamp the roster, and they have. So I think there's a lot more points to be sold here than just, this is my second year, give me more time.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about one of these key flip targets that was on campus, Naeem Offord. Ohio State has not been able to get him on campus at all this season, but Auburn has. I mean, he's back out on the plains. What are you hearing? Were you able to talk with Naeem Offord after this visit?
Talked with him for several minutes, off the record, on the record. I love the kid. He's very good and gracious to us, the media. He always takes time to give us a word or two, and he did again Saturday. He showed up a little bit late to the game, but it's, you know, it was an early game, so it's not like that was any red flag. Spoke a lot with Wesley Cromdall McGriff. Spoke a lot with Charles Kelly after the game. Spoke a lot with Hugh Freeze, and spent a lot of time with Auburn commitments. They're working on him. Deuce Knight, Alvin Henderson, JaMychal Garrett, all these guys are working on Naeem Offord. Anquan Fagans, Eric Winters, all these guys were there working on him. They want him in this class. And, he said, listen, it's Ohio State, it's Oregon, it's Auburn. Obviously, if he goes off to school, if he wants to go off to school, Ohio State, Oregon is fitting that bill. The one school for him to stay home is Auburn, and I think that's going to play a big role in the end.
Yeah.
He's got a serious girlfriend here at home, and we know how that usually goes, Josh. They usually have a say-so. So I actually joked with him, and I said, "Man, the best recruiter Auburn has right now is your girlfriend."
Yeah,
and he didn't argue.
There's a few things that are undefeated in recruiting, Jeffrey. There's a few things that are undefeated when it comes to recruiting.
And that's at the top of the list.
Yes. Okay, so name offered. We know he's going to probably make a visit to Ohio State. So how does this one end? I guess let's get to it. Where does this one end? Is it National Signing Day? I mean, how do you see it playing out? Because we're only about 4 weeks away.
I do. And, this new thing in recruiting is, commitment, and then they'll have a final decision.
Right.
I see that happening with Naeem. I don't know if it would be an announcement or a ceremony or something like that, but I do think there will be the final decision. Okay. And I don't think there's a lot of confidence at Ohio State. I think there's some gaining confidence there at Oregon. I think Auburn has been confident, optimistically, for a while now. I think since early in maybe September, I think there was some growing confidence in Auburn. So I think at some point you're going to have to make a final decision if you're Naeem offered between those three schools. And I would be shocked if it wasn't a signing day decision for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where it feels like it's headed. All right. Last topic I wanted to hit on is offensive lineman Nick Brooks. He's committed to Texas. He's massive. I wasn't really expecting him to show up at Auburn this weekend of all places. What's going on there?
Auburn has consistently and has communicated with him since early in the spring. He committed to Texas, but what Auburn has there with Nick Brooks is Kenyatta Watson. Mm-hmm. Nick Brooks and Grayson and Kenyatta Watson having a son there on that team. He's been to every home game or every game to watch his son. So he's been able to develop that relationship with those kids, not only Nick Brooks, but Joseph Mbachu as well, and some of those 2026 guys. Mm-hmm. So Auburn has quietly stayed behind the scenes, has continued to stay in communication with him. He had said earlier in the week, I think it was to a Texas reporter, one of our On3 Texas guys, "No, I'm not going to Auburn." And I think that's a good sign if you're Auburn, because he knew he was coming, but he didn't really want that out there. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Nick a little before the game Saturday on the sidelines. I talked to him a little after the game. He didn't want to go on record. Completely understand. Don't push for that. But he was having a good time. He was meeting. He was hanging out with the recruits. He was hanging out with the commitments. He was meeting with coaches. I think, Josh, there's still – I don't think at all that he's, almost an inevitable flip for Auburn, but I do think he's certainly one to keep an eye on moving forward.
Yeah, I absolutely do. All right, Auburn fans, how are we feeling? I know you're not feeling the season. The season has not gone the way that you wanted it to, but this recruiting class, it's really good. Let us know how you feeling about recruiting moving forward. Comment section below.